I want to talk to you about how to be interesting. And this is especially relevant if you are a writer, if you are a speaker, a thought leader, an expert, if you are trying to put out content, if you're a content creator where you want to be interesting to your audience. And you could be doing that for the purpose of simply generating content, or you could be using content as a bridge into a selling message that you want to convert people into customers, into clients. Either way, it's absolutely relevant. In fact, this is just, fundamentally, while I have to speak to a specific audience, this is about how to be interesting as a human being. And it's no different, as soon as you're writing your thoughts in a book or on a blog or putting out a YouTube channel or whatever, the advice is really no different. So if you want to be interesting, you cannot focus on being interesting. You can't. Here's what I mean by that. When we're young, we are very insecure, and we want people to accept us. We want people to love us, and hopefully we get that from our family, and hopefully we get that from our friends. But as our world expands, like we start off in this small group called a family, and that expands to like a small community and bigger community, bigger, until eventually, like potentially your community is the entire world, right? Well, every time that we're reaching out, every time we're trying to expand that circle, there's a little bit of discomfort there out at the edge, because we are meeting people with whom we do not have any kind of pre-existing relationship. We're meeting these people and we have an insecurity about whether or not they will accept us. And when we put it in our heads that our goal in these interactions, whether the way that we're reaching out to that edge is by creating content or having one-on-one conversations, when we put it in our heads that our goal is to be interesting, there is an immense pressure on that only heightens our fear of rejection, our fear of these people thinking, oh, this person is not interested. Like we are either going to be interesting or not interesting to them. And when we put all of our energy into this, how can I be interesting? We often just vomit words out of our mouth, and we can't stop vomiting words out of our mouth, and we're not paying attention to the cues of the situation, and we're not paying attention to the other person, and we're not even like talking about something we care about. What we're talking about is things that are essentially a mask that we're putting on. They're a verbal mask, an idea mask that we are putting on to try to get other people to accept us. And so trying to be interesting is just about the worst way to actually be interesting to anybody that you would be speaking to, whether that is one-on-one or through media. So what do you do instead? Well, the alternative that I propose, and many people before me have proposed, but I'm going to take it maybe one layer deeper than you're used to hearing here. The alternative is to be interested. So the traditional, like if you're going to do this conversationally, one great way to be an interesting conversationalist is to be interested in the other person. And Jay Abraham tells a great story about this, about, traveling in Australia. I remember being at an event of his in LA, and he talked about traveling to Australia, and there was this guy that he met at the bar there, and he just started asking questions of this guy, and he just asked more and more questions to try and elicit this guy's life experience. And Jay, as he was telling the story, he just kind of spilled out, what this guy told him in the bar at the hotel in Australia that night. And they ended up talking for hours. And it was just Jay mostly asking questions and listening. In fact, by the end of the night, it sounded like the guy didn't even really know what Jay did or why the heck he was in Australia, because the guy was so happy to talk about himself, which most of us are, that by Jay creating a space, a container for him to talk about himself, this guy really enjoyed talking to Jay and talked to him for hours. And actually, when they decided, okay, it was time to call it a wrap for the night, and they're in the elevator, headed back to their rooms, the punchline of Jay's story is that the guy actually turned to him and said, that is one of the most fascinating conversations I've had in my entire life. Talking about yourself, completely fascinating, right? So be interesting. You want to be interesting, be interested in the other. Set aside your need to be interesting, like your ego need, and just open up a space for the other person to tell their experience, to tell their ideas. But that doesn't really apply to writing and media and like creating content, or does it? Well, on one level, yes, I'll say that it does, right? It does, because the more that you can do that, the more that you can really engage in conversations like that with people, the more you will understand the people that you are speaking with, and the more that you will be able to speak to them about things that matter to them. You may also get stories from them, like with their permission to reuse or to tell in an anonymous way, where you can tell the gist of the story without giving away the person themselves, their identity. But there's another layer to this be interested, which is, what are you interested in? What are you fascinated to learn about? What topics completely like stimulate you? What gives you energy in terms of the content that you dig into? And it doesn't have to be about your main topic. If you are a writer, a speaker, a thought leader, whatever, the more that you can dive into these different topics and like find your point of fascination, and then channel that fascination, that energy that you get out of the intellectual curiosity of diving into a new topic, the more that you can do that, the better content that you're going to create. And it may have nothing to do with, again, the core subject of your content. If I'm interested in meditation and I get excited about meditation, and then I'm talking to you about marketing and content creation and writing and whatever, building your business, but there is a relevant topic from meditation that lights me up, and I'm able to loop that in and talk about it, even if you're not into meditation, even if you don't meditate regularly. The simple fact that I have that extra energy, that extra spark inside, that extra light inside from talking about a topic that I've dove deep into and that fascinates and interests me, like that simple fact will make my content more compelling as I tie it back and use it to contribute to the story. And that's why, like, for example, when somebody gets into marketing, one of the things that they often do is all that they do is study marketing. And they like dive deep into, I'm going to be a great marketer, so I'm going to study all the marketers and blah, blah, blah. Like I'm going to study all the copywriters. I'm going to study all the business people, whatever. And then at some point, like their head is full of all of this marketing stuff. But if you ask them about something outside of marketing, they don't have space for that in their head. And it turns out that they're like a very boring, siloed person. And it may help them generate some more success initially. But that initial success of like, I know everything about marketing, often gives way to somebody with a more rounded intellectual curiosity, a more rounded experience base, actually being able to make brand new connections that are much bigger than what you could learn just studying one subject. And the person that's then able to make all those new connections actually then becomes far more interesting. Going back to that initial topic, becomes far more interesting by being interested in all these different things. They become far more interesting when they even talk about the core subject that the two people have in common. And so, like, an example of this being my friend, colleague, client, Perry Marshall. Dude studies evolution, studies engineering, studies music. Like he made guitars or made speakers when he was in college. Studies all sorts of crazy stuff, but also studies marketing and is able to integrate them in really powerful ways. I know that for me, like my background getting a degree in psychology and my continued research into psychology related subjects continues to fuel my ability to talk about marketing. Or even like when I got into investing, I don't always write about investing when I'm writing investing copy. I'm always trying to loop in things from here and there and everywhere else. Recently, I've been like interested in mythology, I went through the entire Sherlock Holmes collection on audiobook because it was just interesting storytelling. There's all sorts of different avenues that I'm always going down, and I don't always talk about all of them, but sometimes they work their way in and they make it much easier to kind of open up the topic of marketing and keep it interesting as I talk to you about it. And like, that's a model for being a better copywriter, being a better writer, being a better speaker, being a better, thought leader, expert, content creator. And the more that you can like bring in all of these different influences, whatever makes you interested, whatever gives you energy to explore, all of that's an opportunity for you to like mix up all of these ingredients, all these intellectual inputs in a way that as soon as you open your mouth, you are more interesting. As soon as you put your fingers to the keyboard, you are more interesting. And so I would encourage you today, even just like pick one thing that is an interesting field that is at least a little bit outside of what you've ever dug into before, and dig into it and see where that takes you, and see where the next thing takes you, and the next thing takes you, and the next thing takes you. And don't think that you have to, just because you're trying to like get ahead in one field, don't think that you have to be stuck in that field. See if you can open up your perspective, open up your horizons a little bit, and let yourself be interested in lots of different things, and see how that makes you a more interesting human being. What do you think? Let me know how valuable you find this perspective. On a scale of 1 to 10, leave a comment below. Let me know. Also, let me know why. Like, what different perspective did it give you? I would love to know. Again, leave a comment below for that. Click that like button before you go so you get more content like this. Also, so the magical algorithms of the internet know to share it with more people like you who would like it themselves. And you can share it with somebody directly if there's somebody in your mind that you think of right now. And before you go, make sure you're subscribed here. You can also subscribe at breakthroughmarketingsecrets.com. Get my daily emails Monday through Friday covering marketing, copywriting, business building, personal development, and a whole lot more. Whatever is designed to, whatever I'm interested in that I think might be interesting to you as someone who is maybe in parallel spaces or shares some of the spaces that I do in copywriting, marketing, business building, selling, personal development, and more. So again, I'm Roy Furr. This is a video issue of Breakthrough Marketing Secrets. I always aim for 10 out of 10 value. I hope I've delivered it here. Go out there and find something that you are interested in that brings you more energy. And then when you share it with someone, I am sure they will find you more compelling, more interesting, and they're going to find you someone that they're going to find you to be someone that they want to follow. So thank you. And I look forward to seeing you again in your next video issue. See you soon. Bye.